The way that the Gin and Tonic show works is actually it's supposed to be a discussion platform. So ideally, we would have people here who would contribute. In other words, who would show us what their belief is, why they believe this, and why they believe that certain aspects do belong into the 21st century. Because if there is nobody here defending it, it's up to me to give you my definitions and my view about what I think about Islam. And the funny thing is, in the Quran, it tells Muslims they must automatically, all the time, every time, invite people to the Islam and explain Islam in the best possible manner. But if they don't do that, well, then it's up to us. Okay, so why are we looking at Islam? Well, Islam, there's actually two reasons. One is there's a huge amount of impact from Islam on our planet today. And the second thing is there are, I don't know how many misconceptions about Islam. The worst misconception, I think, is it's just another religion. Well, I don't think so. I think looking at Islam historically, that the first thing that happened is it was born out of a state, a caliph, a king, whatever you want to call him, a ruler, went and said, I'm going to use gods to have my people fight, because I'm going to tell them they're going to fight for their God, and they're going to get plus points for fighting for their God. And then if they happen to get killed while fighting for their God, this is going to grant them special privileges. So the more you fight, the better for you. And if you do happen to get caught out and come short, well, then you're going to have special privileges for you and your family. So the best thing that you can do is to fight for your God. Well, for me. And then you can, so he didn't need any womenizers, drunk womenizers. So he said, well, no alcohol and no women for you here and now. You can marry them later. But if you want to have fun, then you'll have lots of wine and women as much as you want when you're dead. So this is how Islam works. But Islam, because it's born out of a state, it contains elements of foreign affairs, justice, war, commerce. There's economic aspects. I mean, I don't know of any religion that says if you die, then 2/3 go to your daughters if you have 3 of them, and if not, then it's only 1/4, and things like that. So it's very specific. It contains very specific, which are wrong, I mean, if you do the math. But it contains these elements. So there you go. This is why I think that it's a political ideology. It's a social economic system because the social aspect is very strong. And then, of course, you have this huge element of money, which plays a huge role in Islam. Okay, let's just take a look at what do we have. Start the definitions. Yes, I had the echo has stopped. Brilliant. My soldier may try to speak. GPZ, wow, he's not going to be silent any longer. That's brilliant. Your unjustifiable belief is that Muslims understand the Gin and Tonic show and will come here to talk. Maybe this is true. But then if I look at what the Quran says, they are obliged to do this. They are obliged to come here and talk. And somebody like Hussein, this Imran Hussein from IERA, this volunteer for IERA, I mean, he's the one who says, well, if you're so desperate to talk to me, then come to the Dawa live desk or something like that. They don't even have it. So he says, well, it's going to be coming soon. Well, Christmas is also coming soon. So how long am I supposed to wait? I mean, why is it that they cannot come to the Gin and Tonic show? And they can't bring this argument they used to say in the past. Well, we're going to be crowded or something. Well, here there's only me at the moment, and if you have anything like if there's a point that you want to make, why not make your point? And if there is a point, then why not make it? Why is that so difficult to make a point for your God and explain your beliefs? I mean, I'm not going to bite you. And like I always say, there are positive aspects of Islam. It's not only negative. I don't only criticize it. I like the idea that you're supposed to be modest, you're supposed to be humble, you're supposed to do the. I quite like those ideas. Nothing wrong with that. So it's not all negative. So I don't understand why you need to be so afraid of the Gin and Tonic show. Anyway, what else do we have? Da 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 da. I don't know what the feature YouTube, what this link is from. Goats grow on trees. How do you get up there? Lol, goats are masters in climbing. Worst misconception about Islam is that it is true. This is true. Yeah, this is true. That is a misconception that is true. I don't know why so many Muslims, and well as Christians as well, let's be honest, they use the word true. And the word truth in a video, every time you see it, I sort of want to slap them because it's never true. I mean, what in the Quran is true? I don't understand it. I mean, a book cannot be true. It can contain true statements. I mean, you can say things which are true because true is what corresponds with reality. But you can't have, my car is true or Islam is true. That doesn't work. All right, they say this true. Quran and Hadith prove Muhammad wasn't the manager. It's really freaky. It is. And now, what is quite funny is now IRA have come up with a video which I was shown earlier today because when I went, I don't often go to Facebook, unfortunately, and sometimes like Twitter comes in bursts. And then today I went to Facebook and somebody said to me that LDM. No, hang on, it's now. What's it called? Mission something, and they came up with a new video, and it's Ira saying that it's I think it's the old Tzortzis essay that he wrote, that there is no scientific miracle in the Quran, but actually it's a miracle in itself, and it's multi-layered, multifaceted, and the words can mean different things depending in what century you read them. So in the 7th century, alaka meant that it was blood because we came from blood, which we didn't. And then in the 18th century, it was something else. And today we know that it's sperm and ovum, and this is why alaka then means sperm and ovum. And I mean, what a load of nonsense. I don't know where they get this from. I don't know why people like these idiots have to speak about science. Why can't they talk about Islam? Why did they have to go and put something like science in there when they don't understand science? I will never get whatever. Okay, you have 3 questions in the Quran, but you also have the poison and the cutting of the heart artery. You have the cutting of the heart artery in the Quran? I haven't seen that. Jesus is the one true Lord. I made it into the show, or did I? Yes, you did. Welcome, quick. Quack. Hello, duck. Hi, everyone. Been a long time. This time, slot's not great for me, usually. Oh, and now we moved the slot to be more convenient for everybody. Exactly. It was moved for America. But do we have any... Muhammad was very nice to orphans in the Quran. Muhammad was... No. I'm sorry, Gibber. Muhammad doesn't feature in the Quran. The word Muhammad is mentioned only 4 times, and there's nothing about Muhammad in the Quran. In fact, I believe that Muhammad is not actually a name; it's a title in the Quran, because it doesn't give you anything about Muhammad in the Quran. You have to go to the Hadith before you get anything on orphans and Muhammad and what he allegedly did. That's it. It just says in the Quran, "Be nice to orphans." Whether this was due to Muhammad or not, well, come to Muhammad, little children. Yeah. Did anyone see the video of Imran Hussain giving a lecture at Oxford Uni? No, come on. He did? Some months back seemed to be no one but him lecture, all reasons to believe. He was alone and they probably filmed him only. No, I did not see that. I don't think I want to. I don't think I want to. Assuming Muhammad as the author. Okay. Well, Muhammad as the author, it doesn't really make sense because Muhammad living in Mecca is being contradicted by everything. So why would somebody write a book and then say, well, I was born in Mecca, when Mecca at the time didn't really exist as such? I mean, it was a tiny place. It was just a shrine. Some people running around the black stone, and that's it. So I don't know. Muhammad as an author, I don't think that. Well, I mean, I see no evidence that Muhammad existed at all. So I think it's a joint effort by different people who took existing stuff, like the Baqarah for me existed on its own. And then what they did is they just added stories and stories and stories. And then the guy said, well, I want you guys to fight. So even if you don't want to, come and fight. And don't do this, don't do that, and do that. And that's it. They just took the Jewish texts and the stories from the Jews and just redressed it, added a little bit of Jesus, and that's the Quran. So, Cambridge, to me it looks like just in front of a green screen. I didn't see him. The only unit I heard was the attempt to ban women from one law for all. Oh, really? Anyway, so there's different stories about Islam making the round. So what we're trying to do is bring some sense into them. So if anybody has a question, here's the place to ask, and we will do our best. If we can't answer them immediately, we'll find out, and we'll bring what we know about Islam, and then see if we can rectify any problems, any misconceptions that there are. Now, the way we start off is by talking about the video of the week. I published this because this was suggested so that people can watch the video beforehand and then discuss the video. The video that was suggested was in a tweet by Tom Holland, who calls it a prescient take from the Muppets. Because apparently this is a bit older, and it shows how three ladies are singing in the foreground, and then in the background you see the destruction of statues and a whole, an entire old temple and things like that. So it's called The Muppet Show, Allahu Akbar style. I hope all of you watched this. So is there anything that we need to talk about in this video? Is it really true that we have that we have anything that we can take from this? Should we make fun of Islam and Daesh? Is this an accurate representation of Islam? Jeremy, sorry.
I couldn't tell whether that was an actual Muppets episode or whether it was a spoof or something.
I also thought so, because I thought it's a little bit harsh for the Muppet Show to actually take such a political stance on this.
The Allahu Akbar was added later in the video. Actually, there's a whole meme of Allahu Akbar compilation you can find on YouTube.
Okay, but the video was original from the Muppets, that somebody came and blew up statues in the background while they were singing?
Yeah, the character who blows up things was a regular Muppet character within the show. They've just put him in doing his song and then added the Allah Akbars.
Okay, wow. Okay, I couldn't tell what it is. I didn't know whether this was intended as such or what this was. Okay, brilliant. So somebody did a very good job of this. But now, is it justified? Should we make fun of Islam and Daesh using the Muppets? Or is this a topic which is too serious for this?
I thought the video opened up a huge can of worms as far as what Daesh is doing at the moment by destroying such antiquities. Because if you look at the Quran, you have examples of Muhammad falling asleep and going off to heaven, or Jerusalem, or the furthest mosque, on this strange creature which has the face of a human being, and that's sort of like the character, the statues they're destroying. So it doesn't make sense. They're destroying things that Muhammad was actually putting into the Quran.
Okay,
it's very strange.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of hypocrisy and there's so much controversy in Islam, so many contradictions. Of course there is. But for me, the question is it correct that we make fun of this?
Well, I think it's very important to be critical of it, because it pervades the whole of the religion, from the fact that they cover up women's faces to the fact that they destroy statues' faces. It's exactly. Just a total self-loathing permeating the psyche of the whole religion. The self-loathing of the face of the woman, so they have to hide her. The self-loathing of the history of the culture wherever Islam has gone to. That isn't healthy. It's very, very detrimental, I would have thought.
Okay, Rashulata just corrected us, and that it was actually a video clip which was intended this way. It's just that, just as Ace said, that the Allahu Akbar was added later, because the Allahu Akbar you can get in all sorts of shapes and sizes. And the character just loves to blow stuff up. Ah, okay. So it's a known Muppet character who blows stuff up all the time, and this was just used now to put it into the context of blowing up old statues, which is being done now, what GPZ just said, exactly. Okay, now I'm slowly getting it. Make fun of Islam and Daesh with anything you can that works. We have to laugh this shit off the face of the earth for the health of the... Yeah, this is the point. What do we do? Okay, I'm a little bit sad that I have to eat my words, that I have to correct myself on the refugee problem, that there are more and more people coming to Europe who are not refugees at all, who are just economic fraudsters, and this is what is so sad. And how the funny thing is, you have Muslims in some areas on this planet who are killing other Muslims. They're both worshipping the same God, the same book, the same everything. They're just doing it a little bit different. And this means just because they're doing this slightly different, they need to be killed. This is something that I find ridiculous. I mean, it's absolutely stupid to do that. It's primitive, it's barbaric. And then the Muslims who have to fear for their lives from other Muslims can't go to other Muslims, but have to go to non-Muslims to give them refuge. And this was quite funny. This entire idea. I remember in Bangladesh when there was a huge catastrophe there, when there was a political uprising there with a split of East and West Pakistan, we had thousands coming to Iran, which made sense because they were Shias and they were being ousted from there, and then they came to Iran and they were being relocated, and then it was the Islamic community, the Ummah, absorbing them. And now it doesn't happen. Like we see Saudi Arabia with 3 million capacity tents and everything, and they'd rather give this to paying customers instead of providing this for the refugees. They don't do that. Then, funny enough, the idea with the island is becoming more and more appealing. I mean, I wish they'd taken up this Egyptian billionaire who offered to buy them an island to provide the infrastructure, and then they could, do everything themselves. I don't know why this failed or why this never got off the ground. That would have been perfect. We wouldn't have the situation that we have of today. So, if we take a very serious situation, because I consider this Muslims running away from Muslims, from internal faction fights, I consider this to be quite serious. And I think what Daesh are doing is atrocious, killing people who think slightly different what they do, and then destroying everything regardless of how old it is. And then we make fun of this. I suppose that's one way of showing that the rest of the world does not approve of this kind of behavior. But I don't know what the real response should be. So this is why I'm asking, is fun and is comedy the right way of doing this? So it's satire, it's fun, it's everything, it's comedy, it's taking the piss, doing all sorts of things. And how about the accurate representation of Islam? Why do Muslims immediately scream and say, no, this has nothing to do with Islam? This is not an accurate representation of what Islam stands for, because Islam is all about peace. Well, we've been through the peace thing, that in Islam peace is not about not the absence of destruction and violence and killing, but is actually the joint worship of all people towards one God. That is what is peace in Islam. But now, just because the majority of Muslims don't do that doesn't mean that we can simply ignore this and say, well, without Islam this would also happen. Any comments on this?
Not exactly on this topic, but I want to put another thought in the round. And we all call Daesh a terrorist, I assume, here in the round. And the thing is, why do we call them terrorists at all?
Because they are imposing violence onto people, onto civilians, with a political goal. That to me is the definition of terrorism.
And still we have Assad, and the so-called West is against Assad. So why do we call them still terrorists?
Yeah, this is actually something that I am going to talk about in the news, because this is one topic that I chose for later on, the whole situation in Syria, especially now with Russia coming in, that I am now at a loss. So this is something we can, should we discuss this now?
The third party and the fourth party is the rebels. Why do we call them rebels? I mean, they do nothing.
Well, they are, because they're trying to topple Assad. Because, okay, the way that it works, the way that the whole Muslim Spring or Arabic Spring or whatever it's called is supposed to work, is that it's supposed to oust dictators. So when Saddam Hussein was ousted by the Americans, then apparently the Muslims decided, well, we can do that to our dictators. So they got rid of Gaddafi. And in Egypt, and so what they're trying to do, and this is what caused the huge outroar, and people were really shit scared, like the emir in Qatar, and this, in the Saudis, and Sheikh Mohammed in Dubai, and they were poop scared that the same was going to happen, that the people were going to say, no, we don't want the monarchs, we don't want these rulers, we want Islam. And they thought that the whole Middle East was going to go up in smoke. And they were really scared of that. And fortunately, it didn't happen, just happened in a few countries. And this is what we're seeing now in Syria, that the people want to get rid of Assad because they want to install Islam. But now IS came along, Daesh came along and said, well, we'll give you the better version of Islam than your version of Islam, because we are the better Muslims than you are Muslims, and we're going to kill anybody who doesn't agree with us. So there you go.
I personally can't agree with this, because the rebels also fight for their Islam, because they don't like the Alawites of Assad. So the whole thing is about religion in the end somehow, or at
Absolutely.
least they take the stance on the religion and try to establish it with it. So I don't see a difference between the rebels in general and the so-called terrorists. For me, they are all terrorists, just two different, can say.
Okay, this is true, because they're not using political means to do this, but they're using violence. Absolutely, I agree with you. Yeah. And then,
No,
of
but
course,
they are using political means, because in my eyes, terrorism is always, without a doubt in my mind, connected directly to political goals.
oh, okay, what I use a political solution is non-violent. In other words, okay, I should call it diplomatic. They're not using a diplomatic solution.
It would be better, yes.
Okay,
to call
then
it
I'll
diplomatic, but
change it to diplomatic. Well, but you've introduced another layer now, which makes it even more complex, which is what I was going to get through in my last topic, because now we have different.
Sorry.
No, you're not clairvoyant, so you couldn't know that I was going to do this. So what happens is that the different people are now from different factions coming in doing different things. And I'm very glad that WZH, the Weg zur Hölle, brought this in, because this is exactly what makes it so complex. And this is something that we need to look at as well, need to take this into consideration when we're going to look at this. So absolutely correct. Okay, so is it an accurate representation of Islam? No, because it's terrorism, just as Akbar just said. It is terrorism, and that is the way that it works. Any other views on this? Nothing. All right, then let's go through some topics which I selected. The first one, which is quite funny, is the fatwa of the week. Something that we don't have here, and there's another program, a weekly podcast, which is called Bread and Roses TV, which is with Mariam Namazi and Faribos Puya, and they have a section which is called Fatwa of the Week, where they demonstrate like helpless reactions of Muslim clerics to reality. And what caught my attention I think this is a good one, okay? It's fitting for the upcoming winter season where a fatwa was issued, and this is apparently quite old. I mean, it's not recent. So this guy came up with a fatwa prohibiting Muslims from building snowmen. Because, if not for this fatwa, millions of Muslims might just start worshipping snowmen instead of their God. Mainly it's because snowmen have no soul dangling from their neck or wherever souls reside. So the thing he banned now was commenting sports, which distracts you from praying to your God. I mean, this guy's a lunatic. Why can't you watch sports and why can't you comment on it? Because it keeps you away from praying? Come on. I mean, it's brilliant. So, while we're on this cleric, I mean, he's the one who apparently, and this is what they talk about on their show, he's the one who apparently told Mickey Mouse to die and stop corrupting others, which makes me wonder what kind of reality he resides. I mean, how come he doesn't ban James Bond and Harry Potter or people like that? This is quite strange. Oh, goodness. Any comments on this? From the New Times, where's this truth as a result of global warming? Daesh is the result of global warming. Fighting for the water.
I wasn't joking there, Spam.
No drink move. Yes, GP.
I wasn't joking. Daesh is now being said to be the cause of, it has been the result of global warming. There was originally a drought in Syria. Yeah, that's what caused Assad to attack the Sunnis, who were protesting about the fact that Assad was doing absolutely nothing to help them with the water shortage.
Okay.
Global warming.
Oh, I see where you're coming from. Okay.
The reason why they're having so much trouble in that particular band of the world, just like they're having that much trouble in Africa in the same sort of equatorial band. People are migrating because of the drought. And because Muslims happen to live mostly in those areas, QED.
Okay. So we're going to have all California moving into North Carolina because they've got the drought in California and they've got the floods in North Carolina. So, yeah.
What you're going to see in the Pacific is probably the opposite. Too much water. There's a lot of islands over there, as you know, and they're suffering all these tornadoes and how do you pronounce it? Tatsunis? So there's going to be a lot of coastal areas flooded, destroyed, and people will want to live somewhere. So where are they going to go?
Yeah. Well, we had this in South Africa where on the one hand, on one side, one area you had a drought and the other one, an entire village, entire city was just flooded and it was swept down the hill. And they were moved something like, I don't know, half a kilometer. And that was a huge landslide and the entire village moved because of too much water. And so this is quite amazing. So, yeah, do they do watered rain dances or something like this? I don't know. So the Arabs roll over. Merkel shouts out, come to Germany, come to Germany. Yeah, she's also very careful about that now. Talk in the hangout. Exactly. Don't let Stopspamming rule the hangout with his annoying voice. Overcome the dictator if it's necessary. Yeah! You're right. Okay, should I be quiet for 60 seconds?
Off with his head!
Okay, is everybody happy now? That wasn't 60 seconds. No, I need more people here so that I don't talk all the time. Because I feel so bad what I did today in the morning. This was horrible. But it's just that I'm so used to now being alone here, which is shit. Okay, is there any other fatwa of the week comment?
I think it's because the people who are issuing the fatwa are not living in the 21st century.
Yeah.
They look at people watching sports and watching cartoons, and they believe those things are the one making society not more and more religious. The fact is, people are not really into spiritual acts like going to the mosque or anything. That's because it's boring. Generally, people don't want to do those kind of things, and the religious people blame it on the TVs and the sports and all that things. That's why they want to ban everything. That's not has anything to do with Islam or not.
So, in actual fact, what you're saying is it's not because of global warming. The people want to go to Germany because of the Bundesliga?
No, I was talking about the fatwa why they are trying to.
No, I understand that. No, I was making a joke because this is the number one football league in Germany.
Fatwa on Stopspamming.
Sorry?
There's a fatwa on you.
There's a fatwa on me. I've got so many footwire. All right, then let's go to the next topic, which is the Hajj stampede, because this is quite a weird one. Saudis say that 769, almost 770 Muslims who were on Hajj worshipping their God were, well, killed in the stampede, where they were trying to throw some pebbles at a wall to pretend they are damaging a devil through the preferred method of torture, stoning someone to death. But I think the devil didn't like it, and then that meant now that 770 Muslims are dead. But anyway, in this case, the stoning is sacred. It's a sacred ritual, and this stoning someone is sacred for some.
Yes,
I don't know how stoning someone can ever be
Muhammad
sacred.
was being tempted by the devil at that particular pillar, so they throw stones at the pillar to represent them attacking the devil who tried to convert Muhammad.
Into delivering the satanic verses. Oh,
Not
dear.
sure about the verses. I've only heard about the fact it was Muhammad being tempted for something like Jesus was.
Yeah, but now the pillar is gone. Now it's been replaced by 3 long walls, so they have a lot of room, which wasn't enough. But now, the point that I'm trying to make here, the number we are given is 769, so almost 770. But when we add up the dead people by country, we get to 1,030, and a further 614 still missing. So who is right? I mean, the Islamic God is embarrassingly bad in arithmetic, but he can't add. Can't he help them out in at least establishing who died for this God and who did not? Why do we get 1,000 on the one hand when we get 700 on the other? So
They
how can
didn't
you have
count
this
the Shiites.
discrepancy?
Did you get that?
No?
They didn't count the Shiites. They only counted the Sunni in one of them.
Oh, because the Shias don't count.
Yeah.
Yeah, but 770 plus the 500, we still don't get to. Then it's over that. Then we still don't get the 1,030. And a further 614, which are still outstanding. So this thing could still skyrocket.
There must be lots of other non-Muslim Muslims there. Not just the Shiites.
Non-Muslim Muslims.
Yeah,
Ahmadiyas
I-
are like banned from Hajj, so that counts them out. Sufis consider themselves Sunni, but like Saudi Arabia probably doesn't.
I wonder what happens if an Ahmadiyya walks in there.
I don't know, they're not actually allowed to get. It'd be like if I think it'd be like if someone walked in wearing a massive pentagram. I don't think it would just be the same as that.
Yeah, that'd be funny. This is like the guy who puts up the painting in front of a mosque and invites everybody to draw Muhammad. So this is quite funny. So yeah. Okay, so we're not going to solve this.
Sorry, but wasn't there an Iranian general that said the Jews was that caused the stampede? You
It
heard
was
of
the
this news?
Jews. Were they praying for a stampede or what?
I don't really. No, I just saw it on Twitter. Somebody posted it, and General, I forgot his name. General Masood Jaziri or something.
I don't know. I've never heard of this.
It was the result of the relationship between the Saudis and Israel. That's why God punished the pilgrims.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, this is like telling the people that the woman going topless on a mountain caused an earthquake. It's so far out. Okay, Itchy and Scratchy. Who's Itchy and Scratchy? Responsible for radicalizing her. Itchy and Scratchy is responsible for all kind of radicalization, to be fair. Who's Itchy and Scratchy?
It's that cartoon inside a cartoon that Bart Simpson likes.
Simpson.
You know, they fight and fight and fight.
No, this
Well, it's
piece of
basically-
culture
it's
passed me by.
It's a psychopathic, incredibly sadistic mouse that kills a cat in a variety of ways. Sometimes he blows him up. Sometimes he chops him up and feeds him to his wife. Sometimes he sets him on fire. Sometimes he just rips him apart. It's literally it's a cartoon within The Simpsons that the characters Bart and Lisa like watching.
Oh, wow. Okay, I want to buy a GPZ microphone on Amazon. Yeah, this is true. The pillars had nothing to do with Muhammad. It was Hagar. Oh, okay, so was it Hagar being tempted, and this is why the devil needs to be stoned to death? Because he dared speak to Hagar. Stampede deaths were a punishment for Allah, for Saudi saving tends to raise money instead of giving the freedom. Yeah, exactly. I see Tzortzis now having done tiding Mr. Well, it's not now. This is quite old because he wrote this after Captain Disguise and Martin Taverell went and did this pretty comprehensive embryology in the Quran takedown. And then he retracted his paper, and then he came up with an essay where he said, well, though there's no scientific miracles in the Quran, but there are scientific miracles in the Quran, because depending on when you read it, it changes contents magically. So this is actually quite old. I have adopted the new Dawa approach of abandoning the new approach and going back to the old approach. Exactly. Rationalizer, he probably remembers this too, exactly. Stampedes were a punishment for being gullible. Oh, shit. Come on, this is people. These are people. Yes, they're deluded. Yes, they're quite sick in the head, but they're people. They really think they're doing something good. They think they're doing something wonderful by running around there and throwing pebbles at this wall. Because I don't think we should make fun of people dying for their God. I mean, they weren't killing anyone. They were being killed because they were stupid, but not violent. And to think Allah knew was going to punish the Hajjs even before He created the universe. Yeah, exactly. This is the sad part, that you're supposed to believe that 5156 tells you that God knew in advance that He created everybody to do something, and then fails 80% of the time, and then in these cases even fails 100% of the time because He creates the people who become Muslims, who worship Him, and then they still die. And of course, it's like, you know, you get these people who are saying, go topless on a mountain, gives you an earthquake. Okay, these people, there must have been a reason why they were killed by God. It's like the Jewish God who kills because he was wicked in the eyes of his Lord. We never get to hear why God killed And then Onan, who was supposed to have sex with his wife, didn't want to. He was killed. So the Jewish God is also quite weird. So I don't understand why these gods kill the people. So, stampede with punishment being given the created universe and rationalizing, circling like hell. Same old with Tzortzis bullshit waffle. Just donate is the only exactly. A God who I don't even know whether anybody should respond to this because I just quickly went through this before the show. I don't know if I actually want to respond in any which way, whether it's worth a response. Mr. Haddo's made a video recently telling Muslims the history of bouquetism and what. This is the same video where he goes and says there's no scientific miracles, and he goes through 3 stages, and I think it's Buchaism, then it was, what was the second one? Oh, fuck, then it was embryology, and then it was Nike, or something like this. Oh, no, that was Zindani, exactly, with the movie, and blah, blah, blah. I know, this is quite, it's so stupid, it's so childish. I don't know if anybody should grace that with a response. Ahmed the clockmaker will invent a hoverboard that goes sideways for... Exactly. Embryology, much ado about nothing, Captain Disguise and Martin Teverill. It's very easy to find. It's still out there. This is still the best thing I've ever seen. Any like really, really thorough refutation of all these claims. Iranian news agency has been issued a news scenario stating that stampede in September when overcrowded caused between 764 and 1,001. Okay, so suffocating and crushed to death. Was the handiwork of the intelligence services of Israel and Saudi Arabia. Why did the Mossad steal some shoes again? Targeting senior official. What? In Iran's Revolutionary Guards and other Iranian official diplomats. Really? Blame Mossad for the crane collapse? Did Mossad take little metal saws and... yes, this is... I don't know. Why does anybody take these serious? I don't understand this. I mean... Seriously, why take it seriously? I don't understand this. Can I come up with a different story? This is actually a nice story. Okay, let's have something nice for a change. Because Sikhs, I have a lot more respect for Sikhs than I do for others. I mean, they're batshit crazy. Okay, with their turbans and stuff like that. Absolutely. But if we look at the Muslim rituals and the inability to help anyone. I mean, rituals in Islam is about me, 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 me. And now we hear of Sikhs whose ritualistic dress code actually helped someone. Because during a religious ceremony, 2 boys fell into a river whose current was, through recent rainfall, was multiplied somehow. And then a quick-thinking Sikh took off a turban, unwound it, and used it as a rope to pull the boy ashore. Another one saw this and they followed suit. And so a couple of Sikhs stood there without their turbans. Now, can you imagine a Muslima, a female Muslim, take off her garments? I mean, she's wearing clothes underneath, but can you see her take off her garments to save someone? I can't see that. Because for me, a Muslim is very selfish. It's only about your own points. Okay, then bombs away, because
there's no Muslim in a whole wide world that would actually do that. There's probably some.
Yeah, I also have my doubts somehow.
Really, yeah, like all 1.5 billion. You don't think there's like one? I'm sure there's one somewhere.
Well, the worst thing was, I think, when Saudi police chased the women back into the burning house because they were not wearing veils and stuff like that. I mean, we all know that story, I think. That's terrible. Okay, so GP says 3, and do you think reforming Islam today is unrealistic? Do I think that reforming Islam is unrealistic? No, I don't think it's unrealistic. In which alternative universe is apostatizing 1.6 Muslims a more realistic option? No, it's not about apostasy. It's about reform. It's about taking the bullshit out of the Quran and going away from all this science bullshit and just going and saying, look, Islam is about spiritual, fulfillment or something, and go and look at only that stuff. Take out all the killing stuff and take out all the obeying stuff, then why not?
Well, is that reform?
That is, in my eyes, that is reform. Well, it's revolution, but
it's counted as reform. I mean, Ibn Wahab, who started the Wahhabi foundation of Islam. I mean, that was reforming Islam. I would actually disagree with you. I don't think Islam needs a reformation. I think it needs an enlightenment.
Okay, what do you call this if you take out all the bullshit?
Progress.
Progress. Okay, well then Islam needs progress. It doesn't matter what you label it as.
It was the Enlightenment that helped it with other religions. I mean, reform has never been about taking out the bullshit or progress. Reform has always been about a different interpretation, reforming it, usually taking it back to the basics, back to the core. Ibn Wahab is a fantastic example of an Islamic reformer. Islam does not need a reformation; it needs an enlightenment.
Okay, enlightenment. I'll go with enlightenment.
Raven is 100% correct, because the Reformation was all about
Sorry, I'm
transubstantiation,
correct or incorrect?
blood turning into wine. Then we had a few hundred years of wars between Protestants and Catholics because of the Reformation, and then we had the Enlightenment, and finally peace, because they said, we don't want to tie the God no more.
Can you put your finger on your microphone somehow on the connection? Because last time it was crystal clear and now it's like totally garbled. Did anybody understand what he said?
I don't even know if he agreed with me or disagreed with me about the enlightenment.
I'll try and say it again. What I agree with Raven 100%, because the Reformation was all about transubstantiation. Martin Luther put up so many points, which included blood turning into wine, which the Catholics believed in, but the Protestants didn't. So they fought wars over this for about 200 years, until finally you had the Enlightenment, where people said, stop this bullshit, God doesn't exist, we don't want to kill each other anymore. So they do need an enlightenment period, but they just throw religion in the dustbin.
Okay, but enlightenment does not mean throwing it in the dustbin.
Well, the Enlightenment actually happened because religious authority had opposition. One of the things I know that's frustrating to a lot of people, liberal Muslims, non-Muslims, ex-Muslims, is just the sheer fact that so many of the bigots and the hardcore dickheads, if you actually oppose them, it's considered Islamophobic and racist, which is just mind-blowing. If you had a Nazi sprouting the exact same shit, everyone and their mum will be shouting him down and debating him. Whereas you make it a Muslim, and it's somehow, it's a different story. But just actually having a backbone to actually refute bad ideas, I mean, that's the key to change, I think.
Exactly. This is why I say take out the bullshit and then leave the spiritual stuff in as much as you like. I don't care about that, because then you wouldn't be influencing anything on a political level. This is the whole point. Alternative universe, apostatizing, a more realistic option. Good luck with that. In the meanwhile, please let liberal Muslims and our allies get on with the monumental task of reform that lies ahead of us, or join us. Then really there is no alternative. Okay, yeah. I changed atheist to anti-theist. Okay. Raven has stopped the duo-Islamophobia. What? What do you mean the duo-Islamophobia? Why do you hate all Muslims? I'm so happy and so lucky that I've said this millions and millions of times that I'm not. What is Islamophobia? Explain yourself. What is Islamophobia? Rashid Azza, you should send Tzortzis a bill for him dropping miracles. What do you know? I was gonna, as a quote, it sounds like Nawaz. I was gonna ask, is there a quote? It sounds like Nawaz. Really? I don't even know what he says. What is he trying? He says, no, I think he just says we need to reform, but not enlightenment. What do we call it if we take out all the bullshit? Atheism. Okay, true. Philosophy, it is called reform of the face of the earth. Muslims still do it. I don't think you can do that. I think people need their Islam. I think there are too many people who actually are dependent on this God of theirs. This is this comfort thing. This is this thing that people see this as some sort of superior form of justice and the eternal comforting blanket or something. But for that, you don't need to rip over the Bible, rip over the rip-off. No, you don't, but that's what they use. Majid Nawaz said that we can choose between reforming Islam and failing to get 100 people to apostatize. We can choose.
Well, I know a while ago when I was on the show, I mentioned Hassan Radwan, who started this new agnostic Muslim thing. And I think I mentioned that just like how quickly it actually took off. And I know he started a Facebook group for agnostic Muslims, and within 24 hours, I think he had close to 150 members. And I remember saying at the time, and it's still evidence now with how it's continuing, that there's a huge hunger for it. You're absolutely right, I think, that some people do feel this need to keep the faith, or to keep the label of the faith. It is a comfort thing. But there are people that are still hungry for change. They want to be able to still identify as Muslim while still having an enlightened version of Islam.
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying. This is not really apostasy. I see this. Okay, I like this enlightenment, actually. I think I'm going to go over to enlightenment. I always call it reform, but I think reform is too much already occupied with a specific meaning. So I think enlightenment, which goes into this agnostic Islam, I think is better. Bill to Hamza headed, who do you love from Ashley Madison? Sorry?
Well, it's not just agnostic Islam. I mean, agnostic Islam is definitely a symptom of it.
Yes.
I also think greater acceptance of ex-Muslims is a symptom of it. Even Ayera, you could argue, is a symptom of it. Because, you got people like Krauss that will debate in a hall of Muslims and say, you know what if I said that I think Muhammad is a paedophile, and Hamza's bashing him and slandering him and trying to trick him to make him be like a favour of incest and shit like that. But the simple fact that Krauss walked out of there with his head firmly attached, I mean, that right there is a symptom of change coming. I mean, obviously, in the Western world, it's because of the Western world. It's because the laws are firmly in place in this country. I mean, there are so many countries where he could have said that exact same thing and is a dead man.
Yeah, but they still have separate entrances for women and men.
Actually having religious freedom in place, so long as it's enforced, and this also kind of goes hand in hand with standing up to hate preachers instead of cowering in fear of labels of Islamophobia and racism. But I mean, it all goes together.
Exactly, but it is comforting to know that we are allowed to allowed to criticize by now. Be easier to find alternative where they apostatize than to get apostasy here. Daily Mail, okay. Asian family converted to Christianity, driven home Muslim persecutors. Oh, really? But
this is a news story. I'm echoing. What am I echoing on? Raven.
Sorry?
I think I'm echoing on your... Can you mute your mic?
Yeah.
Yeah, I came across this news story. This, for me, is kind of like symbolic of why it's virtually impossible to have a significant number of Muslims in the UK. I mean, you've got city of Bradford, which is a bit notorious for having a lot of Muslims that haven't really integrated into British culture, and there's this Muslim family who apparently all converted to Christianity. It's a bit dodgy that they all converted at the same time, but yeah, they've basically been the guy's had his car vandalised and stuff, thousands of pounds worth of damage, time and time again, and they're basically being chased out of their Bradford home. They're probably going to have to move to a sort of white English area, apparently, to escape the sort of hate campaign that they've had levelled at them.
wow.
But this is what happens when you don't when they don't integrate into British society. I mean, how could multiculturalists say this is a kind of future society? It's ridiculous.
I think it's also worth noting because I'm actually familiar with this same story, and according to the family, there was a real hesitation on the part of the local authorities towards rocking the boat. They were afraid of community tensions. Apparently, one copper. I mean, I don't know if this is true. So apparently, one copper mentioned something about there'd be riots and things like that. But this is just again one of those. This is again this fear of rocking the boat with Muslims. And I do think it's fair to say it's only Muslims that this seems to be a problem with. No one has this same fear with atheists, agnostics, Christians, Jews, Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jainists, pagans. We never have this conversation about other faiths. And that has to be pointed out, and it has to be discussed. And it has to be discussed without fear that someone's going to accuse you of being a racist Islamophobe and you're going to lose your job. It has to be done.
And let there be riots. I mean, they need to grasp the nettle. It's ridiculous. If a Muslim community can be above the law because the police can be scared that there are going to be riots if they try to actually enforce it. I mean, the law is pretty much worthless, isn't it?
Well, it also ties into what I said one of the times I was on the show when I was mentioning, for an example, was female genital mutilation. And I just said that if these were white girls, it wouldn't be happening. Like, police and social services would be kicking the doors down to take them away, as well they should. Whereas, where it's like Muslim children that are going through this abuse, then police and social services are actually handing them back to the same community and the same, community leaders, whatever the fuck that is, that are abusing them in the first place. And I remember saying, last time I mentioned this, it's basically racism masquerading as tolerance. It's absolutely sick.
Okay, that's it on this topic.
Well, I just want to know what the proposal is for dealing with this situation.
Well,
I mean, you've got a situation where
it.
no Muslims can, in British community, not Muslim communities. I mean, obviously Saudi Arabia you can't, but even a British community, they can't convert away from Islam. They can't switch to Christianity, atheism, anything, because then all the Muslims in the area are going to start waging this vigilante campaign against them, and cause them endless harassment at best, and threat to their lives even. I mean, it's just not a viable. How can that integrate into a Western liberal democracy?
Well,
apart from closing channels.
Sorry.
No, I was going to say, just apart from closing channels and harassing others, the Saudi censorship, you do get some sort of a change there as well. I mean, look at the stock exchange, which has now moved to a Western level. I mean, that was unthinkable 20 years ago.
Well, in regards to what Jeremy was saying, just before we move on to stocks, I think there's two things really. I mean, number one, there's this entire culture of shame and conformity, and there's also a real lack of police resources. I mean, number one, honor crimes are so prevalent, and yet there's so little there's so little resources for dealing them when it comes to police and social services. This is something that really needs to change. This stigma of shame needs to be gotten over, and the police not only need to take this seriously, be less afraid of rocking the boat. They need to enforce the laws, the same law. I mean, there's no way I could get away with that as a white atheist. I just couldn't, and I shouldn't be able to. I think the blame lies not just with the people who do it, because we've created an environment where we allow this, where we look the other way, and that just needs to change. It really needs to change. I actually have a friend who was an ex-Muslim. She's actually an ex-Sufi, and I thought Sufis were supposed to be the less batshit crazy ones. She left it. She left it. Well, I don't batshit. I mean, like all mystical and shit. But you know what I mean? Like less, more chilled out. I've got a friend that's an ex-Muslim. She's like born and raised in this country, Pakistani descent, and she told her parents that she'd left the faith, and she basically got kidnapped, taken away from her home, forced to stay with her parents for months, not allowed out of the house by herself. They even performed a fucking exorcism on her, and I was talking about it, and she actually contacted me about 3 o'clock in the morning, saying, absolutely terrified, saying that her dad had said, if, and I'm quoting this, and reading into the implications, if you go back to your former lifestyle, I don't mind a prison sentence. And I just remember saying to her, and I knew that she actually knew this, but with that culture she's got, I kind of felt I really had to just say it out loud. I just said to her, look, just keep in mind, you are not in rural Pakistan. This is England. Not only is the law on your side, the wider community is on your side. You need to get over this. And if you feel that you are in danger, for fuck's sake, call the police. And she's actually kind of out of it now. I think she had to lie and say that, mashallah, I've come back to the faith, I've realised my error. But this idea of secrecy and this mafia mentality, why the fuck are we allowing it to flourish anyway? It's absolutely insane, and our own fellow citizens are the ones that are being hurt. It's ridiculous, and it's disgusting. It's shameful, and again, it's something that we are allowing to happen. We're allowing it. We're the ones who are saying, cultural sensitivity. It's just we need to get over this. We just need to get over it.
And you talk about calling the police, but if they take it as seriously as they did with these guys, then it might not make much difference. Might be too afraid to take action against Muslims.
That's the thing. That's what needs to be gotten over. I mean, I don't know how people are going to get over it because it's so ingrained. I mean, I do think it's starting to happen a little bit. There are more liberal Muslims that are speaking up. There are more people who are just saying, and I think one of the things that really, really had an impact was the rape and torture and slavery of children in Rotherham. Particularly when it came out in the public consciousness, this idea of rocking the boat was one of the things that allowed 1,400 children in less than a 10-year basis to go through this abuse, was this idea of cultural sensitivity. And I definitely think since then, and also since Jihadi John, this idea of when it came out, all these hate preachers that speaking at the University of London, all this radicalisation happening, and former students speaking out. I do think there's been a little bit of a shift in public consciousness, and I do think there's more and more people saying enough is enough. How much of an effect it's having, I don't know, but I'm holding out hope.
But does anybody foresee any changes in the UK? That people stop being tolerant towards the intolerant?
I don't know about that, but this is why I would want to reduce Islamic immigration into the UK, frankly. I think we haven't properly integrated the Muslims that are in the UK in places like Bradford. And until we do, or show that there's a way to do it and get past this whole mentality of you're not allowed to leave the faith, it's just going to slowly but surely, more and more places are going to become like that. It's just completely... You can see why people are bothered about this massive cultural change. I mean, I probably wouldn't want to live in most parts of Bradford.
Yeah, but hang on, I didn't integrate in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, but did you move there permanently?
Well, not permanently, no, but for quite a while.
Did you actually disobey their laws?
Absolutely. I had alcohol on a regular basis. At that stage, I was still smoking.
Mind you, don't the locals do that as well?
Well, not so many. Not so many. I was disobeying the laws. How? In that I was not observing the Friday. I was not observing any kind of prayer. I was not doing anything that is demanded by Islam. So we were skinny dipping. We were having parties. We were. I mean, anything that you can imagine.
Yeah, well, I would not want them to not to obey the laws of the UK.
Okay,
whether or not you obey the laws of Stampede Derby.
I never did this in public. Okay, like if I were when I was in a hotel, for example, then of course I would have a beer, but this would only be inside. Outside, I will never have a beer. So I will never try and corrupt anybody. I never spoke to anybody about the religion in a derogatory manner. No, so we would only do that when we were amongst non-Emiratis. So, you know, it's a slightly different, or maybe a little bit, but this is exactly the thing. I was living in compounds, and it didn't matter whether it was in Dubai or whether it was in Abu Dhabi or it was in Doha. You always live in a compound, or Riyadh. It's a compound life. In other words, you have a wall, a very high wall, then you have a couple of houses, anything between 10 and 50, and this is the compound of only expats. There are no local people allowed to live in these houses.
Well, it might be a bit of a similarity to this, because this is probably a ghetto area they're living in, so you've got the vast majority of people are Muslims.
So
that's
I'm
why
a
they're
ghetto
talking
dweller?
about. Yeah, probably. Sounds like it. But that's why they're talking about having to move to a white non-Muslim area, because they're in this. I'm guessing they're in this ghetto in Bradford, or I'm not sure if there's any part of Bradford that isn't a ghetto now, really. You get these little. This is what multiculturalism's our form of multiculturalism's led to. These little virtually lawless zones where the local community is sort of making up the rules as they go along.
Yeah, but then you have South African apartheid.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying this is what I've got a problem with.
And the solution is?
Again, I would take Islamic immigration down to virtually zero until we've integrated the ones we've got.
Or
But this is my issue with, you've got all these pro-EU people saying, oh no, let's take huge numbers of Muslims from North Africa, the Arabic world, and it's just, I don't know whether, I don't understand how they can have that mentality, really. I don't know, are they not seeing the issues we're having already?
Well, the thing is that when I come to Dubai, if I go into a mall, I am greeted with signs saying, this is how you behave inside the mall. Wear this and this clothing. Don't do that, don't do that. Don't touch your wife or girlfriend or something. Don't do this, don't behave like this. Respect the local culture, blah, blah, blah. This is what I'm being told all the time. So I am somebody who, from the moment who arrives there, being told that I need to obey or else. And I think maybe that is an attitude that we should have with the people, telling them, look, you're welcome to come to Europe, but you need to behave in our way, in our, what the Britons call the British culture way. I'm not quite sure what that means, but you can define it, I'm sure, and then say, or else. And that is it. This is, have an alternative, have an ultimatum.
Really have to ask this. These signs, were they in Arabic or is it just English only?
Say again?
These signs saying "Don't touch your wife," behave this way inside the malls. Yeah. I'm just really curious. Was it written in Arabic or was it just English?
Both.
Oh, really? Arabic as well.
Arabic as well.
Hmm.
Point I was going to make is, you can tell them to obey our laws, but that's what we're telling them already.
But then enforce it. But at the moment, you have this political.
But what Raven was talking about was the police fearing riots. So basically, the sheer numbers of Muslims who haven't integrated.
I don't know if it actually did say that, but it was reported and said that. How true it is, I don't know.
Well, they might do. But if the sheer numbers who haven't integrated are causing that fear, then it's not a case of telling them to obey the law. It's a case of getting the existing ones integrated, if that's even possible, without converting them into atheists.
One of the things that is a change for, I think, trying to tackle this is like this new initiative in schools to teach British values, which in theory I kind of like the idea of, because for so long as a country, we haven't really had that many things to unify different types of people. And instead of a multicultural society, what we found more and more is we've just got parallel societies where different people, depending on location or ethnicity or religion, are living in completely different universes. And and that's for some reason that really does escape me. That's been fine and dandy. I really don't know why. But I kind of like this new idea of British values in theory, because I just really think that we need something to unify us as a country. I really do. And one of the things that really annoys me is I actually think it would be helped if there was a greater sense of patriotism. But in the UK, patriotism has become a dirty word because it's confused with nationalism, which is just so different. I mean, nationalism is almost a religion unto itself. It's very fixed, it's very static. Whereas patriotism, I mean, at least as I understand it, I mean, I'll consider myself quite patriotic, but I don't necessarily think that this country is the best country in the world just because I was born here. I genuinely think that this is a pretty decent country. I think most people are pretty decent people, and it's not that I think that we can be perfect. It's just I genuinely think we can do better. And I mean, obviously societies change. People talk about how there's no British values anymore, or the culture has shifted and changed. Well, of course it has, because we're an evolving society. I mean, I'm fairly certain that in 50 years from now, I'm going to look back and marvel at how much the UK has changed. That is not a problem for me. What I'm concerned with isn't whether or not society changes and evolves, but that it changes and evolves for the better.
Yeah, but is halal better?
I genuinely think that we're a pretty decent country, and I genuinely think that we can do better, we can improve. And obviously, I live here, my family live here, the people that I love live here. So what happens in this country affects not only me but my loved ones.
Okay, but then what does it mean as a consequence? Is halal better?
Well, I don't know. What do you mean?
Well, people come and they say, okay, you need to adopt halal systems, or the halal system. Let's call it that. Are you, as a British citizen, going to say, all right, I will stop eating pork and everything now has to be cut at the throat with a sharp knife pointing towards Mecca and you know, all the rituals around halal?
No, I say fuck off.
Well, okay, this is the problem. And this is why I'm asking, what kind of a getting better or progress are you talking about? If, for example, if you quite rightly say, no, I don't want halal in my country, but these people have to have halal, otherwise otherwise you say British territory is prohibited for any Muslim who doesn't want to eat pork. I mean, how do you do this? It's the same as putting this, you know, these signs in Mecca, Muslims only.
Well, no. I mean, if Muslims don't want to eat pork, Hindus don't want to eat beef, I'm not going to force them. I'm not going to hold the door open and pour it down their throat. But I have no right to do that, nor do I have the desire. But at the same time, they have no right whatsoever to stop me from indulging in it.
I think if unintegrated ghettos are going to want to live by their own rules, or there's that risk, which seems to have happened in various places like Bradford, and they're going to want to change the society, not the other way around, not integrate into it. That's my major concern. This story seems to be a symptom of that. It's just really terrible that in the UK in 2015 you can get a family that converts to Christianity, and they basically get persecuted by the local British Muslim community. It's just insane.
Yeah, but it happens a lot.
Well,
I mean, look at the Sharia police that you
really
get.
Thing has to be kept in mind is that there are so few resources with police and social services when it comes to this, honour culture. There is so few, and for the vast majority of people, actually don't know just how bad it is. Not really. They have like this idea that it's bad, but I mean, if you're a white Brit, to actually understand Islamic issues, like unless that you're a convert or the child of converts, you pretty much have to go out of your way to do it. You know, I mean, it was me who took the initiative to first talk to ex-Muslims. It was me who took the initiative to first understand, what the fuck is this IRA shit? Well, what is with all these hate preachers? And most people don't. Most people don't actually know. And most people live in a world where faith is a personal matter. No one expects the child of a Catholic or an Anglican to be persecuted if they leave the faith, because it's not an issue in most people's reality. And this is manifest in social services, in councils, in all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Because there's just not the resources, because most people just do not understand it, and they need to, because these are very real issues. With the family you were talking about, there was a similar case that I heard. It might actually be the same case, but it was a recent case where the council, I think a newspaper actually asked the council, well, what are you doing to protect people against this honor shit? And the council was basically just dumbfounded, well, I don't know. We don't really have anything. What's going on? And I really think that if more resources were put into this, and there was a greater understanding, it would just be nothing but beneficial.
So, do you think it would be an issue if, say, the EU mandated a quota that the UK take 500,000 Muslims from Syria, the Arab world, and North Africa? Do you think there would be an issue at this point, given that we've got integration issues as it is? Or do you think there should be a reduction in Islamic immigration to the UK, at least short term?
I'm not 100% sure. Well, I say that, just to clarify. When I say that I'm not sure if it's Islam specifically or the type of Islam. I mean, most of the Muslims that we have here are the descendants of very rural, very tribal people. They were shipped over from the backwaters of rural Pakistan, rural Afghanistan. We never really made a call to the middle class, to the upper class, to the educated. I mean, the vast majority of Muslims are the children and grandchildren of these very tribal people. And when they actually came over, and no one actually focused on integrating them, we just let them do their own thing. It's not surprising that what happened. So that might just be my answer. Whether it's Muslims themselves or the type of Muslims, if we switched them educated, middle class, I don't know.
I'm sorry, I just read the comment in the chat, which is so funny. Okay, but now, Raven, do you see? Would you make it a political goal for politicians in the UK to really go and force this on people?
What?
The integration. You have to integrate or fuck off.
Integration. Yes.
Sorry, say again. I can't hear.
I think yes, I would.
And you to make it a law or what?
Not to make it. Well, keep in mind. I mean, I didn't answer yes to assimilation. I answered yes to immigration.
Okay.
I'm not. It doesn't really bother me if they want to give Desi and Arabic names to their children. It doesn't bother me if they want to fast in Ramadan, celebrate Eid, and just not do anything for Christmas. That doesn't bother me. But this whole ghettoization thing, this whole people living here for 30 years and not being able to speak a word of English, I think it probably would be beneficial if we did, because we're not a huge country. We're an island nation, and there's only you cannot really help rubbing shoulders with all different types of people, because we're not big enough to really be kept apart. And I don't know. I really think there needs to be some sense of unity. And without this, I just see everything that Jeremy's talking about getting worse and worse and worse. Adding the lack of spine, which I've talked about previously, and we've all talked about it
But
previously.
are you sure that you can decree British values by law?
British values are whatever the British people say they are.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Interesting. I do not know if that works. I've never thought about that. I don't know.
We do decree them by law. We absolutely do decree them by law. It
If
is the law.
It's the law not
It
to.
is the law that you act a certain way. It is the law that you cannot do certain things.
Like vandalising
And
people's
this
property.
is just a fact. Sorry, Jeremy?
Like vandalising people's property because they deconverted from your religion.
Yeah, that's illegal. I mean, a lot of
Yeah,
shit
but that already
people
is
get away
illegal.
with
Yeah, but I'm
is
talking
a
about
police
values.
offence.
I'm talking about values. I'm not talking about damages or anything like that. I'm talking about what is a British value? Is a British value that you are allowed to run around in a burqa, yes or no? Or is a British value no burqa?
I don't know how to answer that. I do think that probably the vast majority of Brits don't really like the burqa, but at the same time, we also have this idea that people should be allowed to wear what they want. So it's kind of a paradoxical thing. I mean, personally, I'm not really fond of the burqa. I just think it's weird, and I mean, I can rationalize it. Just as human beings, we're social creatures.
Yeah, but I call it demeaning, and I'm petrified of burqas.
Communicate so much with body language expression. There are certain security issues, but ultimately, I mean, I don't really think it's right to say that people should dress in certain ways or should not dress in certain ways. I mean, there are exceptions to this. Like if someone wants to buy cigarettes in a garage and is wearing a burqa, then you should not be able to get away with, oh, well, my religion stops me from doing it, and, if you don't sell them to me, you're Islamophobic, when it could be a fucking 12-year-old. If I'm a teacher in a school and a woman in a burqa picks up a kid, and I'm not sure that that person is the mum, I'm not giving her that child until I see her face. I mean, maybe I can compromise and ask for a female teacher, but unless she shows her face and I'm satisfied, she's not getting her hands on that kid. So there is common sense issues, but when it actually comes to whether or not people like it, it's not the place of the law to say how people should or should not dress. With possible
incorrect.
exceptions, like
We have-
I'm sorry, but you're incorrect. There was actually a test case when a Muslim woman wanted to wear a burqa during a court case. The judge ruled she was not allowed to. So there is legal precedent for banning.
That's just actually saying there are certain times when it's not appropriate. I mean, in a court of law, this actually ties into what I said at the beginning about why I personally don't like it.
Yeah, but then where's it appropriate?
So little with words, but so much with expression, body languages, little twitches. To actually say in a court of law when you're giving a testimony that you have to show your face, that is perfectly reasonable.
We also have more general legislation because we have public decency laws. Women basically can't go around naked in most places. So, are you saying the public decency laws could apply to too little clothing, but they can't really apply to too much clothing in general?
Exactly. This is exactly the issue in a lot of cases. Can we or can't we?
The idea comes to, I mean, keeping in mind when I'm talking about this, I am factoring in that there are some situations where common sense has to prevail for whatever reason. But ultimately, I just don't see how anyone can really say that you are allowed or not allowed to dress in a certain way. I personally think that's a fundamentally un-British value.
Okay, but do you agree that there shouldn't be a difference between dressing too much and too little?
I don't give a shit if someone wants to walk about in a burqa or a bikini. It's not my business.
What about completely naked?
What she look like?
You see, this is exactly the point that I'm trying to make. I think it goes both ways. I think you shouldn't be allowing people to run around naked because it somehow, I don't know, contravenes the British value thing. Or if you do the opposite, it also contravenes against the British values thing if you do too much of something. So I think we are today, I think it should be in the middle. And the way that the society today in the UK or in Europe, for that matter, has decided we want to live in a society where people do actually go and cover their bodies, but not the faces, because it's crucial to understand facial body language in the communication process. And I think this is where I draw the line.
I can kind of see that, and I mean, there is a part of me that actually really wants to agree with you, but I suppose it's just.
Then go and let it.
I just don't. I suppose it is the liberal in me, but just as a point of principle, I just don't think it's right to dictate how people should be allowed to dress. I mean, in the UK back in the 90s, there was this massive freak out about goths. You know, I remember at the time just saying to someone, "Well, I don't want to ban black nail polish."
Okay, why not? Is it a British value?
Like it.
Yeah, but it's a British value.
I do think. I mean, it's kind of a scapegoat to talk about British values as opposed to laws, because a lot of what we call British values are part of law. I mean, sometimes the law takes a while to catch up. Like, it's a British value, at least today, the marriage isn't necessarily that much about religion. It's just about two people who love each other, and it's a very personal thing.
Okay, so there you're tolerant. Okay.
I mean, hence most people were in favour of gay marriage, and so gay marriage went from being illegal to legal. I mean, This is a reflection in law of British values. That right there, the idea of monogamy.
No, hang on,
It's an absolute legal reflection of British values, like commonly held values.
No, I'm sorry. Here I disagree, Raven. No, maybe it's legal by now, but does it represent British values?
Which example?
The gay marriage.
Yes.
Okay, and I see that there's a disconnect between a legal matter and a value matter, because I still maintain that the majority of the British population are not really that much pro-gay marriage. I think there's a lot of people who still value the traditional British value, which is a family consists of a man, a woman, and children. This is the traditional family.
Paul after Paul says that if like two men or two women want to get married, that's their business. I mean, most people actually don't care. The reason that the law was passed so easily is that it was found, study after study, poll after poll, so many people randomly interviewed in the street, and over and over and over and over and over, people were like, well, yeah, sure, why not?
Humans don't control what happens to them. It is God who directs us.
Our facial expressions are like another language. They're an important part of the way we communicate with people. It seems to me that covering the face is like cutting out one's tongue, a way of form of communication.
No, of course not. God knows that the woman is a gem, so he hides it and preserves it, and doesn't show it except to close family and her husband, for whose sake she was created. I'm talking now, aren't I? And you understand what I'm saying? Talking is about feelings, not just facial expressions. Feelings from the heart. No, this talk is completely groundless.
Yeah.
I don't understand what she was saying, because she needed a translator.
Isn't that telling?
Well, yeah. I mean, I agree with the voiceover. So much of human expression and communication is facial and body language.
Yeah.
Which is why I said before. I mean, the court was completely right to say that you should be unveiled if giving testimony.
Yeah. So this is where my disconnect is, but I still stand by my suspicion that a lot of people want to seem tolerant and liberal and will therefore vote for gay marriage even though they don't. The same way as a lot of people will want to be tolerant and will want to be liberal and say a woman is allowed to wear what she wants. Okay, I am honest enough, and I will say, no, I do not. I do not condone putting a bag over a woman. I will never condone that. And yet, I don't care whether it's British values. I think it's human value. This is something that I think everybody should respect. And I don't think that this business with the okay, if a woman wants to run around in a bikini, it's fine, but if she's naked, no. I think this is what we've agreed on, how people want to live. And the same goes for seeing a person's face. I think we have 4 regions in the brain which are focused only on the facial recognition of body language and expression. And I think this is highly important.
Again, it's something that I do kind of agree with you with, but there's just this part of me which just hesitates with actually agreeing, because there's just this part of me which thinks, like, does anyone really have the right to tell someone how they can and cannot dress?
Well, I think society does.
I really want to agree with you, but I just have that little bit of liberalism just in me.
Okay,
it's just like kind of stopping me from actually agreeing. I mean,
I
can say, there are certain situations, but I am very uncomfortable with the idea of dictating how someone can walk down the street, whether or not it makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, but the thing is, I am quite honest about this, that I agree that people should love whom they want to. So if a man wants to love another man, they can do that. But please, not in my face. I still cringe today if I see a man kissing a man. I cannot handle that. I have to close my eyes. So I am bigoted in that way, in that aspect, absolutely.
There's a few people I've known, and when gay marriage was first passed, I remember there was some people having conversations with it, particularly in some pubs I frequent. It was a topic, and but even then, I actually noticed that there are people who genuinely are a bit uncomfortable with homosexuality, and they'd never go to a gay club ever because they'd be completely uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
But they still say, if they want to get married, let them. And why shouldn't they?
Okay, this is exactly my stance.
It makes me uncomfortable.
I mean, I've got friends who are gay, but they will never.
That say we've got no problem with gay clubs. They're completely fine and even happy for gays to have a place where they can get together, but won't go themselves because it makes them uncomfortable.
Yeah, I talked over you a little bit because I thought you were finished. And that's exactly my point, because I have friends who are gay, but they will never try and convert me because they know that I'm not gay. And I'm okay with that. It's not that I think they are some sort of, that they contain some sort of virus or something like that. No. But I will openly admit to that. And the same way that I will openly admit that I do not condone these bags on women. And that is it.
Well,
okay, I think we've done this topic.
I don't think that, from what I've said, that I condone it or I'm fine with it. I actually do feel kind of uncomfortable about it. It's something I would prefer didn't happen. But actually taking that step to make it a legal matter how someone can dress, I can't quite go that far.
And I think France and Belgium did the right thing in opening up this topic, which made a lot of people talk about it. I mean, I don't know of anybody who actually went and enforced it. I don't know if there's anybody who's in court about paying a fine about wearing a burqa in public. It's just that I believe, I personally know that most women who have to wear abaya, chador, burqa, whatever, they don't really want to. I do not know a woman who voluntarily says, I don't want to show anybody my hair and things like that. I don't know anybody like that. Maybe they exist, I just don't know them. But I cannot imagine that.
In France, when the whole veil ban came in, there was an additional law. I can't remember exactly how much it was, but if a woman was, when in a public place and was veiled, then the fine would be, I think it was several €100. If it's found that a woman doesn't want to veil but is being forced to by family members, the fine is actually several €1,000s.
Oh, shit. Okay.
It's already a legal matter as to how people dress, because you're not allowed to dress nude. So it's already illegal.
Under the law, you actually can strip naked. It's a very shaky law. It's when the law first came in about nudity, Parliament was very concerned about this impacting on naturalists. But there are certain people. I mean, like there's this one bloke. I think he's called the Naked Hiker or something like that, and he's just this bloke with like shaggy hair and a shaggy beard that walks from one end of the country completely naked. And I think this was found to be provocative and in your face, so he was arrested over it. Whereas there's other people that strip off clothes in like Leicester Square or Trafalgar Square.
Yeah, don't you have this riding bike naked?
Take it, and police are just like, well, no law's been broken, but if they don't seem to be doing it to cause offence, they just want to take a picture in the book.
Yeah, don't you have the naked bike ride?
Yeah, there's the naked bike ride through London. I visit once a year, twice a year.
Yeah. Okay, I think we've solved this. We've
really
done
weird
this.
Law, actually.
Or let's say we've realized that we can't solve this. This is just personal opinion. I do not know what is going to happen with this topic. I just find it interesting that even the British don't really know what British values are. And it shows that this is just human beings, and different human beings will have different opinions on things like that. Okay, I've got 3 more topics to get through, and I've only got 10 minutes to do so. Last week we talked about Islam and this guy who was crying about having to kill others and kill him, and that he was going to fail and things like that. Well, it seems they have a readily available supply of people who are willing to drive armored vehicles into places and blow themselves up killing others, other Muslims. Muslims killing Muslims. I cannot stress that enough. Because this week another vehicle loaded with explosives, this time into Baghdad itself. And the Muslim inside killed everyone around him for his belief, which is slightly different than the belief of those around him. So it was targeting Shia Muslims, which seem to be the worst non-Muslim Muslims for Sunni Muslims, it seems. Anyway, then shortly afterwards, another suicide bomber, this one carrying explosives on their person, blew themselves up and those around them. Well, it's crazy. I mean, is it their own fault if they pray to the same God, the same prophet, the same book, just using some different rituals? Why would anybody go and do that? Why did Protestants and Catholics kill each other in Ireland for so long? Why is it that so many people kill each other over their beliefs? This is something that is incredible. It's literally incredible. I don't understand it.
Sam Harris said beliefs have consequences.
Yeah, but no. Yes, if you believe that, what's his name, Elvis Presley lives, and you go into a job interview, who gave that example? I think it's so nice. If you come to me and you say to me, okay, Elvis Presley, I've just had a conversation before I came to the job interview.
That was Sam Harris.
Was that Sam Harris? Then that is going to have consequences. Whereas if you say, I've just talked to Jesus, you might, if you're in the States, you might get away with it, and you might even get the job because you said it. So this is so hilarious, I think. It's I don't know why people would do that. Why would anyone? I mean, I would never kill anybody for anything unless, like, if somebody tries to hurt my family, all right, then I would do it. But then that I consider to be self-defense. So that is a totally different situation. But I would never go and harm anybody else just because they believe something different than what I believe, no matter how ridiculous and stupid it is. I mean, if you want to be a Nazi, well, then be a Nazi. If you don't harm me or don't harm others, who the fuck cares? As long
They are defending for God, and God is more important than the family. So there you go.
Yeah, this is the problem. Actually, this is the whole point, and this shows. This is actually a good point at demonstrating how pernicious religions can be. This is the problem, because being okay, it has a consequence if you believe, if you have this religious thing that your God exists and rewards you with certain things if you show and demonstrate certain behavioral patterns. But it's so ludicrous to go and think that your God is so weak and you need to go and punish somebody else instead of your God, that you need to be the slave of Allah, the Abdullah of this God, because your God is incapable of doing anything about it. Why can't people live according to the Quran and say, well, Jesus is going to select who goes into heaven and who goes into hell? Why don't you let this God sort it out later on when you're dead, instead of now killing somebody in the name of your God? I mean, this is like, for me, it says, my God is impotent and I need to help him out.
Well, hi guys.
God is all powerful, all-knowing and all-powerful, but, you know, he can't actually do anything by himself. He needs us.
Yeah. Abu, what did you say?
Hi. I think it's... I mean, I can understand that you don't understand, but if you really believe these things, and I would say that it may be quite consistent to act upon your beliefs. I mean, I think people in the West tend to underestimate how deep this belief is. Yep. If you've been brainwashed with this from your birth, it's like Pascal's argument. I mean, what do you have to lose? If you don't obey God's order, you're going to be tortured forever. So,
but do you think
I don't think it's a Western thing. I think it's a European thing. I mean, definitely in America, they really do realize it. But I think you're completely right. In Europe, at least, there just is this mentality that even when someone is standing, covered in blood, holding machetes, they just hack someone to death. They're quoting Quranic verses, and at least in not in America, but at least in Europe, people still can't wrap their heads around the fact that they actually do believe this shit. It has to be other things. It has to be the security forces. It has to be the upbringing. It has to be racism. It has to be Islamic.
I think that's...
It has to be politics. It has to be foreign policy. Because you are absolutely right. In Europe, at least, people genuinely cannot seem to wrap their heads around it, even when they're covered in blood, quoting scripture. But no one seems to realize, holy shit, they actually believe it.
I think it's an interesting point that you get a lot of people who can't accept that jihadis actually believe what they're saying, because I've never been... The usual wisdom is that other religious fundamentalists can understand it, but sort of liberals or secularists can't. But I've never been a religious fundamentalist. You know, the most I've ever been is incredibly lukewarm Christian when I was a kid. And yet I can, although I can't sort of empathise with their feeling, I can believe that they believe it.
But it seems like, I'm sure every one of you have some beliefs that you take for granted, like, I don't know, maybe trivial things, but like that the Earth is like rotating around its own angle or something. I mean, I think if you one day would wake up and realize that my whole worldview was wrong. And if you've been brainwashed with that from a very young age, and I mean, you never heard anything else. I mean, why should you even question it?
Yeah, but don't you think that people will realize that they are actually showing how weak their own God is and making it look like totally incompetent and impotent?
Yeah, but it's a test. We will test the ones of you who have the best deeds.
Like Abraham and his child.
Yeah, I mean, it's a test. It's all what it's about. This life is just a test.
And you are showing yourself to be worthy of this God if you kill for this God.
Yeah, it's all about that. It's about obeying God, showing that you're loyal to God.
Okay, this is something that I did not take into consideration. You are right. I actually saw it as weakness, but it's not. It's just the fact that you are so deeply engulfed in this that you don't actually see this, and you think, yeah, I need to obey every single little command because, as we know from Euthyphro's dilemma, that everything what this God tells me is the best thing for the humans.
It's kind of fun. I read this tafsir, or I think those lectures on the web, by the way, from the tafsir on the Quran from Ibn Taymiyyah in Surah Al-Baqarah, when why the God is ordering Iblis to make sujood to Adam, and that should be shirk. So why isn't it shirk? And the reason is because God is ordering it. So even the thing that is shirk becomes not shirk because God is ordering it. So the most important thing is the command of God. It's like this big mafia boss in the sky that.
Yeah, it's the old paragraph one paragraph 2 example. Paragraph 1, God is always right. Paragraph 2, if it should not be right, automatically takes over paragraph 1.
There's a song by a comedian called Tim Minchin called 10-Foot Cock and a Few Hundred Virgins. And it's this absolutely fantastic song that goes on about actually believing. And it's just kind of like, so you want to live in paradise with a 10-foot cock and a few hundred virgins. So you want to sacrifice your life for a shot at the greener grass. And it's an absolutely fantastic song, which you just reminded me of. And it just kind of talks about the Quran and the Bible, like, but having sex with my family, that is just fucking great. It's all there in Ezekiel 8. And
no more singing.
Like, you'll find it all in the Quran. And it's just such a funny song about dying for faith and belief, and just completely mocking it and taking the piss out of it. More piss taking needs to happen for this absolute ridiculousness.
Let's talk about while you're talking about this.
I genuinely think that things like satire and humour are among the best weapons.
Okay, I happen to agree. Yeah. Okay, while we're on the topic, let's talk about refugees quickly, because this is a very, very hot and very important topic, I think, because, like I said earlier, and it seems I have to eat my own words because I was a bit wrong, because more and more illegal immigrants are being detected, and they're not really refugees. So they're not political or from the war-torn areas, but there are more and more people who are coming into the country, into Europe, just looking for bucks. So the island idea has increased in appeal accordingly. But now what is happening is, when they get to Europe, these people are now fighting each other as different groups quarrel and fight over who worships their God in a better way or manner. It's like children, but as you say, with consequences. And now what you get is you have Muslims coming into Europe, and now they start arguing with Christians, and then they start fighting them, and then the Muslims in between each other are fighting, and then you have by now usual, I say, sexual harassment and rape, where a sex-starved male Muslim sees a woman without a burqa for the first time in their life, and they can't help. They need to rape her. Or maybe they see her as a slave or captive. Or
that's quite an interesting point.
Why integration is such an important thing. Just allowing these parallel societies and these alien mindsets, you just cannot coexist together. Integration needs to happen. I was actually reading. There's a few articles that talk about, when sort of refugees, and I mean, it's not. I just got to say, it's not surprising that there'd be fake refugees.
But so many
to actually be there. Everyone should be expecting this. It wouldn't even surprise me if there's Islamic State suicide bombers in waiting that are just claiming to be refugees and just waiting for the order from Iraq and Syria to blow up Rome or Paris or something. I mean, this is something I'd be amazed if people hadn't thought of. But I mean, integration is just the key. I mean, just as an example, just when immigrants,
no more examples.
Refugees are first coming to the islands of Greece, I mean, depending on the culture, it seems to be very different stories. Like Syrians, who are very similar in culture to Greeks, just because of historically trading cultures, they're just fitting in so well. They're playing chess with the locals, and then you have like Pakistanis, who just have a completely different culture, who are just kind of grouping together. And again, almost immediately forming the ghettoization that me and Jeremy were talking about, and it's actually happening this fast, and you cannot not integrate and expect to not have these problems. You just can't do it. It's impossible.
The thing about the sex-starved Muslim was interesting because we always say, when the argument is made about, oh, women need to wear burqas because men can't help themselves, oh, that's ridiculous, we could. But actually, maybe if you're brought up in a culture where all the women do wear burqas, then you are more likely to not be able to help yourself. Yeah. So maybe that's the problem, is that it's kind of like a vicious circle.
Well, sexual repression, it basically is a culture of sexual repression, and repression comes out. I mean, you can see it in any society or any culture that does have sexual repression. The Islamic world is a fantastic example of that. India is an example. States in the US, which are very repressed, teach abstinence only. It's the same story. The Catholic abuse scandal. It's always the same story. Repression is what happens. I mean, I'm going to say. I actually don't have a problem saying that if I had like two grown men that wanted to like two grown men that I actually knew and that I trusted to an extent that wanted to take my kid to the park, if one of them was sort of shagging about, a bit of a player, and just had a very open and just was not sexually oppressed at all, and then the other was like a pious holy man, possibly wearing a dress, it's the religious one that I'll be thinking, no fucking way. It's not happening, mate.
Okay, can I just take another example? Is in the UK, because they had some Libyan men who were trained to go back to Libya and help restore some sense of order, and instead they went on a crusade on some stolen bikes, and they accosted some girls and raped a man, of all things. And then they applied for asylum. I mean, can you believe it? And now Britain is evaluating this, or re-evaluating the position, and says, well, maybe we shouldn't grant them asylum after what they've done. Let's just send them back and get them out of here.
Did they do that in the UK?
In the UK, yeah.
Well, they come from cultures which basically say if a woman is uncovered, she's asking for it, and this is something that is just prevalent in that society and in that culture. I mean, they basically see a woman outside of a burqa that pretty much wants it, where, you know, when she says no, but she really means yes, because otherwise she'll be wearing a bag. And this is something that's been ingrained into him. I have a friend that's in a long-term relationship with a Turkish man, and she kind of flits between England and Turkey, and we were just talking about cultural differences and repression, and she goes on about, particularly because her partner is not from like Istanbul or any of the more metropolitan areas, but he's kind of from countryside, and every time he gets like friends or family that go to tourist areas and they see like Western women in bikinis, like their mouths just fall open. Yeah. And my friend is actually went into detail to explain that doesn't mean that they want you to accost them, and they genuinely don't get it, and it's absolutely shocking.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's the way. And this is the problem. How do you integrate someone who has no inkling of what it is to behave yourself and not immediately jump a woman just because she's nice to you or something? This is the problem. A lot of men in Germany have this problem, because I hear that a lot of girls just behave nice and they're just flirting, and then men think this is an invitation and they go and rape her. This is what I hear now a couple of times. Okay, but let's not get into this feminism raping thing.
Sorry, I think that segregation plays a huge part into it. If you come from a culture like I do, where from the moment of birth, you're surrounded by male and female, boys and girls, men and women, when you spend your entire lives being friends with the opposite sex, you have friends, you have girlfriends, you can't not see them as fellow human beings. Whereas if you're just completely segregated, then it's just it just seems to be over and over that if you're segregated from the opposite sex, you just kind of start to see them as somehow different than you. This is more just like pieces of meat. Whereas if you're just, you know, male and female mixing from birth, like is normal in Western society, you just see each other as two human beings.
Yeah, this is the whole point. This is, I think, very difficult if you don't get this taught right from childhood. If you're taught women are there to serve you and they are only there to serve you as a victim for rape or something, and then suddenly you're supposed to throw all that overboard, I suppose it's a bit difficult. Okay, last topic. This is the topic that I was talking to with Ike about, and that is Syria, because I have a question. I don't understand what Russia's role is in the Middle East. Are they backing Assad to ensure orders from him so that, you know, he orders stuff from Russia? Or are they fighting back Daesh? Are they trying to make the US look bad, who are backing the rebels for some reason? Who is actually fighting whom? Or is it all of the above? And what equipment is being bought or supplied from where? Because in the beginning it was easy, okay, where the Muslim Islamists tried to topple a dictator, install Sharia of some sort of flavor or whatever. But then something must have gone wrong, because suddenly you had 19 groups, all with different goals, and then Daesh and propagated something different. They came along. I have lost track of who is doing what to whom and why, and what is Russia doing in there all of a sudden.
My guess is that it's a bit like
an article from the New York Times.
Hey, I spoke first, Raven. Come on. I just wanted to make a brief point. That my guess is that it's a bit like China and North Korea. So they're wanting a stable Syria to kind of like act as a buffer zone, but they've also got like Assad as a bit of a puppet government if he wins the conflict ultimately.
Yeah, but the puppet for Iran.
For Russia.
Oh, for Russia, okay. Yeah, but then how does Russia go into Iran? Because then Assad is being backed by Iran, so they would then have to exert some sort of pressure on Iran as well.
So Russia exerting pressure on Iran?
Yes.
Why would they want to do that? I was just thinking of them having like a buffer state between them and the rest of the Middle East.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but they also have a common border with Iran.
What you were saying, I briefly glanced at an article from the New York Times just a few days ago, and it said that Russia has launched a number of, like, quite a huge number of military strikes and bombings in Syria, and not a single one of them was aimed at the Islamic State. Not one.
Yeah, because the main opponent of Assad right now is the rebel groups that aren't the Islamic State. But he's kind of ceded eastern Syria to the Islamic State for now, hasn't he? So maybe their long-term strategy is to then first win that war and then win back the land from the Islamic State.
Okay. Now, I think that Russia, well, they should care about Iran, because Iran has better caviar, because they take more care of the Caspian Sea than Russia does. I think they should worry. But anyway, I don't understand the role that Russia plays in Syria, but if it's just to have a buffer state, if they are then fighting for Assad, killing rebels but not Daesh, then I don't understand what the long-term goal is.
The last time I looked at a map of the region, you've basically got the east of Syria and sort of moving southeast into Iraq is Islamic State territory, and it's not. Yes. It's almost been completely ceded by the Assad government. Where the battles are happening, you've got Damascus and was it Homs, and that's where the battles raging between Assad and the rebels. But those rebels don't tend to be Islamic State rebels, do they? So it's not surprising that if he's trying to help Assad win his war at the moment, he's not going to be attacking the Islamic State. It's going to be those rebels that Assad's fighting.
Okay, but do you think that the US weaponized rebels play a role in this, that they want to get back at the US as well?
I don't know whether they directly want to get back at the US. I don't know what the US and the UK are playing at. It's absolutely ridiculous. I think we should just pull out of the Middle East. I agree. I hate what our government's doing. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense to just bomb Syria. I mean, what's the point?
Exactly. This is what the fuck. Just let them. Yeah.
This is a worldwide threat. One that needs to be combated.
What's a worldwide threat? Sorry.
Well, do you not think that the Islamic State poses a worldwide threat? One that
but I think probably the Assad Putin alliance is a hell of a lot. It's going to stand a much better chance of dealing with it than we are from the sky. I mean, they'll if Russia knows how to put down a large Islamic insurgency, he showed that in Chechnya.
Because I wonder what Russia's stance is on the nuclear energy program that Iran has.
I don't think they care about that. But we shouldn't forget about the resources in Syria and Iraq, and both parties, like the US and and Russia needs those resources, like phosphor in Syria, where is controlled from Daesh, and also in Iraq you have phosphor, and also oil, of course, and the calculated worth of all these resources are about $5 trillion. So there is something to get there. The other thing is Russia and the US are now cooperating a little bit to not stand in their way, to not have an accident in the air, to bomb Daesh. So they are also working a little bit together, to killing others, not themselves. It's interesting.
There's a good point about resources, but I guess you could say Russia's got a slight advantage in that they are just physically next door to these Middle East oil resources, whereas the US is on the other side of the world. They've got Israel as a stopping point, I suppose.
Yeah.
Well, Russia doesn't need the oil really, because they have oil by themselves, and I think the biggest gas resources belong to Russia. But it's more really the phosphor, because you need the phosphor to harvest better your eatable stuff on the fields.
I think it's a brilliant move from a Machiavellian point of view, it's a brilliant move to go into Syria now from Putin. It takes away some attention from Ukraine. He defends his allies. Maybe he can affect the oil price somewhat, and the Russian economy is completely dependent on that, so you have everything to win from it. And it's like back in the Cold Wars, United States and the Soviet Union went into all kind of weird conflicts that they really didn't have anything to do with, but it was just, it's almost like, a bit like in the Peloponnesian War, where this side was joining this side without any real reason, but just so you protect your peace in the power balance.
Yeah, that's another element in there as well. Exactly. So, all right, I still don't understand fully what this is going to be, or what the outcome of this is going to be. I don't understand the consequences. What this situation with Daesh, with Syria, with Iraq, what the whole region is going to look like 5 years down the road. I have no idea what that's going to do, what that's going to look like. All right, guys. We're actually longer than usual. This is, I think, a long time since we've had this. Any famous last words, or should we just proceed with the Hadith of the week? No famous last words. Then we shall proceed with... Ike, do you want to do that? Because I always have a problem with the... with the audio. Or should I play this anyway and then recite it while I'm playing? You've got it there. Okay. He's so good with this. Yeah, but he's in Switzerland where they don't have internet yet, right? This is a hadith that appears all over the show. You can find it in Bukhari 4:59-17, and of course it's by Abu Huraira. The Prophet said, if a housefly falls in the drink of any one of you, he should dip it in his drink, for one of its wings has a disease, and the other has a cure for this disease. There you go. This is the Hadith of the week, the Hadith of the Fly, animated by Ike. I think this is so funny, but it's fitting. This is what you get from the Islamic narrations regarding the Islamic medicine. There you go.
Is there meant to have been any justification for that at all, or did they just make it up?
No, it's just made up. Well, the point
It's
being,
not based on some some anecdotal story
No,
where
it
someone
is. It
ate
is.
a fly and survived.
No, it is because the narration is that God is able to provide a cure for any of the things, for any of the tests that he gives humans, because he is not an unjust God. So for everything that he gives somebody in the form of a hardship, he automatically also provides the cure. And this is the allegorical explanation to the whole thing.
Every time someone has ever said that to me, which basically boils down to God does not burden someone or test someone more than they can handle, I just look at them and I'm just like, then why do you get people who genuinely who commit suicide? I mean, I literally just point out the simple, well-known fact that there are people who do have more than they can bear, and they fucking kill themselves. And it's amazing how no one ever has an answer.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. Unfortunately, you can't make it up because Islam already has. Ladies, gents, and others, thank you very much for your participation. We'll see you again next week. Cheerio. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.